He was starving in the middle of a forest. His traveling partner had taken everything, his money, his food, his chance at survival, and left him to starve to death. But what happened next changed everything he thought he knew about fairness. Two men left their villages with the same goal. The tailor believed the world rewarded generosity. The shoemaker believed it rewarded those who protected what was theirs. By the end of their journey, only one of them would be right. The tailor walked with lightness. He hummed under his breath, even when the road stretched endlessly ahead. He greeted strangers like old friends. His voice carried warmth that made people stop and listen. The shoemaker walked in silence beside him. He had no patience for songs, no interest in pleasantries. To him, the world was a transaction, and he intended to win. They arrived in a small town by evening. The tailor sat up beneath a tree and welcomed every passerby with genuine curiosity. People stopped. They lingered. They asked him to sew shirts, mend jackets, and embroider cloth. The shoemaker worked nearby. His skill was undeniable. Every stitch, deliberate. Every shoe, proof of mastery. But when customers approached, his tone was sharp. He pointed out flaws in their worn-out soles with disdain. He stated his prices without warmth. They walked away. By week's end, the tailor's earnings were substantial. The shoemaker's purse felt nearly empty. He watched the tailor laugh with customers, watched them hand over their coins with smiles, and something hardened inside him. He told himself it wasn't fair. That charm wasn't skill, that the tailor's success was luck masquerading as talent. But somewhere deeper, he knew the truth. People don't buy from those who make them feel small. When it was time to leave, the tailor suggested traveling together. The shoemaker agreed, not out of friendship, out of pride. Traveling alone would feel like admitting he had failed. The tailor bought provisions for the journey. He'd heard of a shortcut through the forest, 2 days, maybe 3, but he knew they might miss it. So he purchased bread for 7 days, for both of them. The shoemaker accepted it without comment. He simply took what was offered. They missed the shortcut. The trees thickened. The path grew unclear. What should have been 2 days stretched into 5. The tailor's bread ran out on day 3. He'd rationed carefully. But 2 days of food cannot cover 5 days of walking. The shoemaker still had plenty. On the 4th morning, the tailor finally looked at him. Not with words, just with the kind of expression that says, "I'm hungry, and you have enough." The shoemaker understood. He made his choice. He would share his bread, but only if the tailor gave him everything earned in the town, every coin, every penny. The tailor hesitated, not from unwillingness, from understanding. This moment meant something. He handed over his purse. The shoemaker accepted it without ceremony, then gave him a portion of bread barely enough for a child. The tailor ate in silence and kept walking. Something had shifted. The shoemaker didn't see it yet. By day 5, the tailor collapsed. His vision blurred. His legs gave out. His body had begun shutting down. The shoemaker glanced back. For a moment, he considered stopping. Only for a moment. He kept walking toward the city ahead. The tailor lay alone on the forest floor. He didn't know if he'd wake, didn't know if anyone would find him. Then he heard something, a soft rustling. 2 birds had landed on a branch above him. They'd been following since the town, watching from tree to tree. They'd seen the bread deal. They'd seen the abandonment. They dropped an apple beside him. The fruit wasn't much, but it gave him strength to stand, to keep moving east. He stumbled out of the forest 2 hours later. His vision still blurred. His legs barely held him. A trader's cart sat at the forest edge, wheel broken, goods scattered across the road. The trader looked up, saw the tailor swaying, recognized the signs. He handed him a water skin without a word. The tailor drank. The trader offered bread. They sat in silence for a moment. Then the trader spoke quietly. Another man had passed this way hours earlier, walked right past the broken wheel without stopping. The trader looked at the tailor, at his hollow eyes, his trembling hands. He didn't ask. He already knew. The city was 3 miles east. The tailor thanked him, stood, kept walking. Within hours, hunger returned. He came to a pond. Ducks floated on the surface, peaceful and unaware. The tailor was starving. He could have caught one, built a fire, survived another day. But when he reached toward the water, he saw the mother duck position herself between him and her young. He saw the way she moved closer to protect them. He stood up, walked away. He didn't take the duck. Hunger doesn't justify cruelty. Further down the path, he found a beehive. Honey dripped golden from the comb. His stomach cramped with need. He reached for it, then noticed the bees, dozens of them, working, building, repairing damage from recent wind. He thought about how long this had taken to build, how easily he could destroy it. He pulled his hand back, left the hive untouched, kept walking. The tailor reached the city with nothing. No money, no food, no strength. But he still had his needle. He found work embroidering handkerchiefs for a merchant's wife. She paid him generously. He ate, he rested. He opened a small shop. People started returning, not just for the quality of his work, for the way he treated them. Within weeks, he became the most sought-after tailor in the city. Within months, the king summoned him. He became a royal tailor. And 3 months later, when the tailor had built his reputation, the shoemaker arrived. He'd spent those months in other cities, burning through the tailor's coins on wine, wagers, and pride. Every city, the same pattern: skill without warmth, customers who never returned. He too found palace work. He too earned a royal title. But his heart hadn't changed. The king favored the tailor. The warmth he brought was rare in palace halls. The shoemaker noticed, and the bitterness he'd carried began crystallizing into something sharper. Jealousy does that. One afternoon, the shoemaker approached the king. He claimed the tailor had been boasting, said the tailor bragged he could retrieve the ancient crown, the one the king's grandfather lost in the forest decades ago. The king summoned the tailor immediately. The tailor tried explaining he'd made no such claim, but the king looked at him carefully. The shoemaker says you can find it. Can you? The tailor paused. I don't know where it is, Your Majesty, but I can try. The king nodded. 24 hours. Bring me the crown or leave this kingdom. The tailor left the palace. He had no plan, no map, no strategy. But he knew one thing. The king's grandfather would have traveled the same forest path he had walked, and travelers only stop in one place for certain: water. He walked back through the forest, retracing his steps. When he reached the pond where he'd spared the ducks, he stopped to rest. The water was clear that day, clearer than it had been weeks before, and there, in the shallows between two rocks, something caught the light. Gold. He waded in carefully. The ducks swam nearby, watching. They hadn't disturbed it. They hadn't moved it. Maybe creatures remember kindness differently than people do. He lifted the crown from the water, heavy, ornate, exactly as the king had described. He returned to the palace before sunset. The king held the crown in his hands. Then he looked at the tailor. How did you know where to look? I didn't, Your Majesty. I only knew where a traveler would stop. The rest was observation. The king studied him. You could have said you didn't know. You could have left. Why didn't you? Because I gave my word I would try. The shoemaker stood in the corner, watching, furious. 3 days passed. The tailor noticed something strange. The shoemaker had gone quiet. No more accusations, no more complaints, just watching. On the 4th day, the king summoned both men to the throne room. The entire court was present. I have an announcement. The king gestured to the shoemaker. This man came to me weeks ago with accusations against the tailor. He claimed the tailor boasted of impossible feats. I gave the tailor a test. He passed. The shoemaker's face remained carefully neutral. But something troubled me. Why would a man work so hard to destroy another? He paused. So I sent investigators to the towns you both traveled through. I spoke with merchants over several weeks, with innkeepers, with travelers who walked the same roads. The tailor's stomach tightened. He didn't know where this was going. The king continued. A trader at the forest edge reported finding a man half dead from starvation. He offered water. The man told him his traveling companion had left him to die. The king's eyes fixed on the shoemaker. I also heard about a shoemaker who arrived in 3 cities with sudden wealth, who spent it on drink and dice, who boasted he'd earned it fairly. The shoemaker's composure cracked, just slightly. But here is what interests me most. The king stood, walked down from his throne, stopped in front of the shoemaker. Yesterday, my guards caught you in the royal treasury. The tailor's head snapped up. You weren't stealing. You were looking, measuring, studying the layout. The shoemaker said nothing. And when my guards searched your quarters, they found sketches, detail maps, plans. The king held up a rolled parchment. You were planning to rob the treasury, and you were going to frame the tailor for it. The courtroom erupted. The shoemaker's face went white, then red. Then he lunged, not at the guards, but at the tailor. You! Everything you touch turns to gold. Everyone loves you. While I work twice as hard and get nothing. The guards restrained him, but the shoemaker kept shouting. You think you're better than me? You think your kindness makes you worthy? He was dragging now, being pulled toward the door. I should have let you starve. I should have... The doors closed. His voice faded. The king turned to the tailor. I did not tell you about the investigation because I needed to see if you would defend yourself, or if you would simply continue being who you are. He paused. You did not speak against him, even when you could have, even when you knew what he'd done. I have seen many men in my years, skilled men, clever men, men who could talk their way into or out of anything. But I have rarely seen a man who remains silent when he has every right to speak. The tailor said nothing. The king smiled. Even now, he returned to his throne. The shoemaker will be banished, not for what he did to you, but for what he attempted to do to this kingdom. You will remain as a royal tailor, but I am offering you something else. The king gestured to an empty seat beside the throne. I need an advisor, not someone who tells me what I want to hear, but someone who understands what it means to make choices when no one is watching. The tailor looked at the seat, then at the king. Your Majesty, I am just a tailor. No, you are a man who chose to starve rather than steal, who chose to walk away from easy food rather than cause harm, who chose honesty when a lie would have saved you. He leaned forward. That is not just anything. The tailor accepted, and in the years that followed, he became known not as the king's tailor, but as the king's conscience, the man who asked the quiet questions, who reminded the court that skill without character is worthless, that power without restraint is tyranny. And when people asked the king why he trusted a former tailor more than nobles and generals, the king would tell them about the crown in the pond, not because finding it was impressive, but because of everything the tailor didn't take when he could have, the ducks he didn't catch, the honey he didn't steal, the words he didn't speak when silence served him better. Show me a man's choices when no reward is promised, and I will show you his character. Years later, the tailor received a letter. It had no return address, just a few lines in familiar handwriting. I have thought about the forest every day since I left. I have thought about the bread, the coins, the moment I walked away. I told myself you were weak. That kindness was a weakness, that the world owed me something it gave freely to you. I was wrong. I do not ask for forgiveness. I do not deserve it. I only right to say, you were right, about everything. The world does reward something, just not what I thought. The letter was unsigned. The tailor never responded. Some truths don't need witnesses, only time. Leave a comment below. Tell me about a time someone showed you kindness when they didn't have to, or a time you chose honesty over convenience. These stories matter. Your story matters. And if you want more stories like this, stories that make you pause and reflect, subscribe to Tales by Kathy. Choose carefully what you leave behind. See you next week.